at certain things. The way we act about certain athletes smoking weed, Michael Phelps, right? And with today's eyeballs,
I'd love
and
to
we
play
go
that
like,
revisionist history.
if somebody came, like if it came out that I don't know, who's going to be the biggest star of the Olympics this year? What? Simone Biles probably. I saw she's doing stuff like you cannot even imagine. Like Simone Biles probably going to be the most famous athlete. Michael Phelps back in the day.
Oh, he was bigger.
Was the most famous athlete in the Olympics.
Maybe the world.
There was a moment, when he made his run. What was it? 9 gold medals he won in the one Olympics. Was that Athens?
He had even his comeback. I mean, he was huge.
And then it came out, hey, turns out when the guy is not swimming, he likes to rip a bong every once in a while. And everybody freaked out, lost their bleeping minds on Michael Phelps because a picture went viral before viral was even a thing. But a picture popped up of like, hey, there's Michael Phelps ripping a bong. And what about the children? He's on the Wheaties box and blah, blah, blah.
I was a kid. I remember, I forget what circumstance it was, but it was some public school type setting where it was like, hey, kids, he did this. Not a great look. And we're just like, wait, what?
Now, 2024, we look back and we go like, okay.
Just a little different.
If we saw, Simone Biles at a party ripping a bong, nobody's going to care. I mean, some people might care because some people some people just can't get their, stop crying in their cornflakes every morning. But I would say the uproar that we saw with Michael Phelps a dozen years ago, probably not anywhere close to the same because we have a different opinions and a different relationship with that particular behavior.
Now, I'll say this, Justin. If you lie about getting robbed, we'll probably still, judge you.
That whole thing was bizarre as well because
Ryan Lochte, man.
Ryan, so
sorry, I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but we mentioned Michael Phelps, and the two are just too interconnected.
So Ryan Lochte got rip-roaring drunk at the Olympics. This was in Rio. Ripped a bathroom or ripped a sign off a gas station bathroom or something. Did something what stupid drunk bros do. But also was held at gunpoint and extorted by Brazilian maybe law enforcement. He was held at gunpoint and extorted. They're like, so he didn't lie about that. The story morphed and changed, but either way. Point is, we look back at things differently, right? And you mentioned the LeBron Hummer, which is a funny thing because that's just a footnote. That was a big deal. Boy, looking back at what we see now with what these high school kids are doing, they all have agents. NIL is in our world. You talked about it with DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton got an FBI wiretap. He was like that, not him, but Arizona, Louisville, Adidas, Nike, FBI wiretaps over federal bribery charges potentially coming down over something that you look back now and go, yes, par for the course. That's the business. So, Brenden, I very much remember because I have a weird memory. LeBron James, his junior year of high school came out. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. This guy might be the next Michael Jordan. And everybody's like, oh. Okay, well, so by his senior year, it was crazy. His game, multiple games were on ESPN. Somebody was getting paid for those commercials, by the way, and I don't think it was LeBron. We didn't watch a lot of high school basketball on ESPN. LeBron's games were being broadcast, high school basketball games on ESPN. He was on the cover of, Slam magazine as a high school player. Well, as it turns out, when you are famous, people give you stuff. I don't know why we have always felt compelled to give rich people free stuff, but that's just the way of the world. Hey, I know you're rich and you could afford these Beats headphones, but have these for free anyways. And maybe take a picture of them on your Instagram. Anyways, LeBron James was gifted because back then, Brenden, throwback jerseys were all the rage. Throwback jerseys.
Isn't that how my guy, Rich Paul, kind of got going?
Yeah, well, and that's what happened here. And I don't know if that's where the relationship
Or am I thinking of
started.
Maverick Carter?
Maverick Carter.
Who sold the jerseys?
Well, and guess what? LeBron got some free throwback jerseys. And
Okay, sorry, my bad.
the Ohio version of the OSAA came out and said, where'd you get those? You're a high school kid. You have a single parent. Those are like $400. Mitchell and Ness, like, where'd you get those? They suspended LeBron James like 3 games in his high school career over some throwback jerseys. And looking back now, Brenden, there are high school seniors right now making NIL deals with Kentucky, with Louisville, with Kansas. Right? They're negotiating tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in NIL deals. Back in 2004, hey, LeBron, where'd you get those throwback jerseys? Where'd you get them? Oh, you didn't buy them? Those were a gift? That's improper. You're suspended for 2 games. Like, he's the best player in the country in high school who got a gift of some throwback jerseys. But then, as soon as he graduated, yeah, he got that yellow Hummer. And then again, because, well, we're all kind of weirdos. Well, how did he get the Hummer? He was like, because he's got a $90 million Nike deal coming right down the pike. But I think the whole thing was his mom basically got a loan, and the bank was like, yeah, he's going right to the NBA. We're fine. We will give you this loan. Here's the Hummer. Have ats. Didn't mean to go down a LeBron rabbit hole, but point was, when the spotlights were bright, when the eyeballs were bright, LeBron took charge of the moment. And it took him a couple of years, but then he beat the Pistons, got to the finals, and then won his championships. Steph Curry, same thing. Steph Curry comes into the league. A lot of people criticizing Golden State over that pick, by the way, including Golden State players. But all of a sudden, here comes guys making a lot of threes in the regular season. Playoff bright lights, eyeballs shine on Steph Curry. Guess what? Took the moment. Special players take the moment. Is Luka going to be able to grab this moment? Or is he? And I like Luka, but is he kind of having a wasted opportunity here? Or maybe just Boston's just that good. But
I think it's entirely possible that the latter is true, Justin, because, again, not to say that it's a lazy take, but I continue to go back to it. Boston was the best team in the NBA all year by a wide margin, both wins and losses. And no disrespect to Dallas, they're obviously on a roll and got here, but they were the 5 seed in the regular season for a reason.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
again,
true.
that separates a few games. It's kind of a lazy take, but I'm like, that's why it wouldn't surprise me if Boston got this done.
Need somebody to have an NBA Finals moment. Haven't seen it yet, right?
Totally.
Haven't seen an NBA Finals moment. Maybe tonight's the night, because whether it's Boston or it's Dallas. But, I remember last year, it was clear when you watched that series last year, like, all right, nobody's stopping Jokic.
I mean, it's a must-win for Dallas tonight, right?
Yes.
It's over. You don't win tonight.
Somebody once asked me, I think I was in a job interview many, many, many years ago. Not anywhere, anytime soon. But I was in a job.
Had to make that clear, right?
Very clear. It was over 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago, I had a job interview one time, and they asked, what's the most important game in a 7-game series? It was a very odd question. And I was like, that's game 3. Game 3 is always the most important game. You would think, it's game 1. No, it's not. You can lose. Dallas wins tonight. We are back, baby. Dallas loses tonight. Hey, start planning the parade route. Start planning the parade route. Game 3 is always the most important game. Dallas can get right back in it tonight with a win. All right, we're going to get right back in it. Is Instagram and the internet ruining sports? I have concerns and thoughts. We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. Do you ever watch 60 Minutes? I used to love 60 Minutes. Then I got to a point when we were deep into COVID, and I'm like, I just can't watch any news because this is making me depressed and very, very sad. But I used to watch 60 Minutes all the time, and 60 Minutes, they called it Brenden, they called it a news magazine, right? It's not the nightly news. It's a news magazine. It's like and for you kids out there, magazines were these things. They were kind of like, you take a book and a newspaper and smash them together and make them all glossy with pictures. But you would flip through a magazine and you would read an article, an interesting story. It wasn't exactly hard-hitting news like the paper, but it was a story. And 60 Minutes used to tell these stories, and I love 60 Minutes. But anytime they would have an author on, they would have to throw a disclaimer out. And the disclaimer that they would throw out was, such and such book is published by Simon & Schuster, which is a division of, I think, Viacom at the time. I don't know. It's Paramount now? Who owns CBS?
Paramount, yep.
But essentially, they'd come out and say, like, listen, we own this guy's book. So just so you know, so as a little disclaimer, like Simon & Schuster is owned by Paramount, and so are we. Now that you know that, we can go about talking about this book as if we're not just trying to run a 15-minute infomercial. So I shall start off. I shall start off with my disclaimer on this next segment. I have an Instagram account. I am not a good grammar. Grammar used to be what I would get yelled at because I would say me and Aaron are going, and my mom would be like, no, it's Aaron and I. But now Instagram, you became an Instagrammer. I'm not a good one, but I've got an Instagram. You got an Instagram?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Don't use it quite as much.
I don't
It's kind of
either.
more for personal.
Pounce is like legit. He's all been the gram.
Hey, he's got a movement, though.
He really does.
I need to go see him DJ one of these times.
It's real fun.
I need to put that on my to-do list.
Every once in a while, he does it in the daytime, which I am a fan of.
Ooh, I could do that. You know, I'm kind of an early
They call it a day fade. Or a day party, which is what I call Saturday. Anyways,
well, if that happens, it might be the first time we hang out outside of this show, Justin.
We'll see.
Faded up for the Pounce.
Right, back to the topic, though. I'm not good at Instagram. I do not have a lot of Instagram followers. Same thing on Twitter. I am on Twitter or X at Justin Myers 541, but I know I'm not a very good follow. Could I try a little bit harder? Sure. But I got to a point where I was like, Twitter was so full of negativity. I'm like, do I want to bring all of that negativity into my pocket? I am voluntarily, look, doing a show. I have Twitter up. You want to criticize me over something I say on the show? These 3 hours, open season. But when I shut it down for the day, I don't want to continue to hear negativity all the time, and I certainly don't want to invite it voluntarily onto my screen. But so for that, not being good at Instagram because I feel like I am better served enjoying and experiencing a moment as opposed to taking a picture of said moment. Even though if there's ever a fun drink or food, my wife, she very much Instagrams it out. And same thing on Twitter. I would much rather do a segment on the show and, do a little debate with Brenden back and forth, all in good fun and good spirit, than to get into an argument with a bunch of people on Twitter. That's just me. But what that has done is it has probably cost me some followers. And I get that, and I'm cool with it. Over the last couple of days, weeks, months, and even year, in every sport, except the NFL, in nearly every sport, from college football to college basketball to women's college basketball to the NBA and now to the WNBA, and you have seen story upon story upon story where we are hearing about the popularity of athletes and how that is what matters most. And it got me thinking, is Instagram and Twitter skewing our vision? Is Instagram and Twitter ruining sports? Because I think of it like the advanced stats movement. Advanced stats in baseball were kind of fascinating. They found a way with this WAR thing to like compare Mike Trout to Mickey Mantle, right? Like they created a comparable stat. We created OPS. That's on base plus slugging, and that was really, if I remember right, and if stat nerds, please don't roast me on the internet. I don't care. But I believe that was one of the key stats that Billy Beane and Jonah Hill,
Peter Brand,
but it was the guy for the Dodgers.
You want the real name?
No, that was the owner of the 49ers. DePodesta. I believe his name was DePodesta.
Yes, Paul DePodesta. Good for you,
Justin.
And
that was one of the stats where they were like, because there's that whole point in the movie, and Brenden, I know you know the movie. He's like, what does he do though? He gets on base, right? On base plus slugging. That's what was one of the key statistics that they honed in on that nobody else was paying attention to. A lot of people, because
were they also the first people, Justin, to say, he's got an ugly girlfriend, no confidence? So
no, everybody was saying that.
I wonder if that's still being said at draft tables.
100%
I mean, come on, right?
But that's what scouts did. That, like, they would try to find whatever, like, hey, got an ugly girlfriend, he doesn't have confidence. Or the way they would, like, he's not going to put on much weight. Or look at the way he eats, he's going to get fat. Like, he's, like, that's a real thing. International players, how do they eat? Because you come from certain parts of the Caribbean, and then guess what? You go into Fort Wayne, Indiana. Guess what you're eating for breakfast every day? French toast. He's going to get, like, that player's going to get fat. Like, that's a whole thing with scouts. But stats were cool. Stats were, it was new. It was like, hey, we can look at the game different. And then guess what? Stats got insane. Insane. Stats became analytics, right? And analytics came into our world and became more important than what you are seeing on the court. It doesn't matter if you watch that guy play and that guy defend. It's the analytics tell you. You don't even need to watch the game anymore. Just get yourself a calculator and enjoy sports. We went nuts. Well, social media came into our lives, and it was interesting when social media came into our lives because at that point, the only way you would hear from your favorite athletes is if they did an interview with a reporter or on TV or in a commercial or they hosted Saturday Night Live social media came into our world, and all of a sudden, we can watch what our athletes do every single day. They're tweeting. Some of them probably regret some of those tweets. Some of them have a very calculated social media presence, but it was fun to just like, hey, athletes became kind of in control. And then, as I've said, the tail started wagging the dog because now we are sitting here and, like I said, all sports. Let's start with my favorite sport, college football. I adore college football. I love college football. In September of last year, what was the biggest story in college football? What was the biggest story in college football? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and the Colorado Buffaloes. And when people like me looked at Colorado and was like, this is interesting, but I don't think there's much there because I watch a lot of football. I was shouted out, you are jealous, you are a hater, you are so jealous of Coach Prime, and look at the numbers, right? Look at the Instagram followers. That's what I was told. Look at the Instagram followers. Look at the engagement. Look at the likes. Look at the views. Look at the numbers. And it, again, like advanced stats, the numbers and the popularity became more important they did win 4 games, right? And we have never once celebrated a 4-game season. But, the numbers. Basketball. One of the bigger stories this upcoming draft is going to be Bronny James. Bronny James, 4 points a game in college. Bronny James, who, again, I have no problem with. You want to pursue your basketball dreams, but it feels like feels like this is an orchestrated plan. What does everybody talk about with Bronny James? Oh, but look at the numbers. Look how many Twitch followers he has, because he's a big Twitch guy, right? I think that's his thing, is Twitch.
Oh yeah. Never got into Twitch, even as a video, because it's kind of meant, again, as we found out with a certain guy who played basketball here at one point, it's kind of for video games.
I forgot about that.
Yep, kind of for video games. And I know a lot of people that do it. Never really got into it. I'm kind of, call me crazy, Justin, quick little aside. When I play video games, I don't maybe want the world to see how I'm acting when I play video games.
That's same with me. When I am not
a thought.
I don't play video games, but when I watch Oregon football, the last thing I want is the world to see how I watch.
Yeah, can we get a live cam adjusted during exactly?
Dude, it would not be good.
It
would not be good.
I know. Yeah.
So, but what do we hear with Brenden? Look how many Twitch followers he has. Oh, think about the eyeballs. Think about the number. Because in an Instagram internet world, we get the numbers now. For decades, and because I'm Gen X and I'm old enough to remember, right? We kind of knew about the ratings, but nobody ever, after the Bulls beat the Lakers in 1991, nobody ever came out and said, what was the rating on that? How many viewers on that? It was, did you see Michael Jordan go up with one hand and switch to his left hand? Didn't need to do it, but he did it anyways. Did you see that? That is what we talked about. When the Super Bowl happened in 1991, nobody was, well, what was the number? We talked about Whitney Houston's national anthem and Norwood missed the kick. Nobody talked about the numbers because the numbers were an afterthought. They came out a day later in the paper, and the paper is what your dad read, okay? Now the internet's out there, and it's not the numbers, the ratings per se, but Brenden, these young kids, they live in a world where followers is life. Followers and likes and engagements and content is life. And I worry that it is ruining sports. Sports has always been kind of the last bastion. It has always been the one last meritocracy. We hear about Nepo babies all the time. But sports, I'm fairly certain the best players in the NBA are the best players. I don't know if everyone getting a record deal is the best singer, as opposed to they knew somebody who networked, and then their Instagram follow, like, because I hear about this in the music industry all the time. Now, I'm not in the music industry, but I hear about this in the music industry all the time. You go in, take a meeting. What's the first thing they ask you? How many followers you have? How many Instagram followers you have? Do you come with a fan base? This industry as well, the one that I work in. I've been asked multiple times, what's your social media impact? How many followers do you have? A good amount, probably not as much as I should. We have lost in a lot of other parts of the world, and it's creeping into sports, which makes me worry. We have lost the ability to go, no, that's good, I like that. Instead, we look at it and go, how many other people like that? Therefore, I shall like that. It's a popularity contest. And it's happening in the entertainment world, right? I was on Yellowstone from the jump. Brenden was on Yellowstone from the jump. Then everybody else started liking it, and it became a big deal, right?
Then it also kind of got bad.
And then it got bad. But nobody wants to admit that because of the numbers. But
or Costner's Emmy.
some things, right? It's became like, do we care if it is good or if it is mediocre? Do we care if what we are seeing is quality, as opposed to look at the numbers? What, look at the Instagram followers, right? Well, Colorado stunk for all intents and purposes. 1 win to 4, Justin. I get it. They still stunk. They still had no purpose of competing at a national level. Oregon proved that week 4. They blew a 28-point lead to Stanford at home. And Stanford was not good. But it was the numbers. Oh, look at the Instagram followers. Look at all the likes. You're just being a hater. It's like, am I the crazy one here? But Caitlin Clark. I don't know if Caitlin Clark's good enough to make the national team, but here's what I do know. And again, fair warning, Oregon homerism alert. But here's what I do know. Is that Caitlin Clark became incredibly successful and popular because of her three-point shooting, right, Brenden? Her three-point shooting. The female version of Steph in college set the record for points scored, gets buckets. Sabrina Ionescu has a better three-point percentage than Caitlin Clark. In the WNBA, Sabrina Ionescu was shooting at 40-some% from three. 40-some%. You know what's funny in all these Caitlin Clark debates and arguments and all these things about why she's being left off the Team USA? You know what I haven't heard? Maybe Sabrina's better. Because she shoots at 40-some%. Whereas Caitlin Clark was shooting at 38%. We don't hear about those numbers, do we? No. All we hear about is ratings and eyeballs and, you want to grow the game. When did the popularity become more important than the quality? When did it become and again, I can't pinpoint it, I don't know it, but it's crept into our world where it's like all people are caring about followers, eyeballs, engagements. But are you watching the games? I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the ins and the outs of the WNBA, but I'm fairly certain Diana Taurasi and Sabrina Ionescu are better players than Caitlin Clark. Will they be when it's all said and done? We don't know. Right now, they're better. They're more experienced. That's who gets the spot. And Team USA finally came out and basically said what I have been saying in a much more appropriate, palatable, but it was like, the only way we're talking about this is we're talking about it with basketball. Because if you keep telling, Livy Dunn. You've heard of Livy Dunn, right? Huge TikTok star. Gymnastics. Is she on Team USA Gymnastics, Brenden? No. She's watching her boyfriend, Paul Skeens, dominate as Pittsburgh Pirate. But Livy Dunn's not. She's a gymnast for LSU, who apparently the kids think has a lot of riz.
Oh, Justin.
Had to do it. But, Brenden, is she not on the Team USA? She's not going to take Simone Biles' spot? Well, I wonder why that is. Why isn't Livy Dunn, who has... So think about the eyeballs. Think about the ratings. She's got millions and millions of TikTok followers. Oh, yeah, she's not good enough. She's popular. She's attractive. She is a massive following. She's not on the team. Oh, nobody's talking about that. That's interesting. Get up. ESPN right now. Caitlin Clark left off the Team USA roster. Nobody's talking about Livy Dunn being left off Team USA Gymnastics. Nobody from what I understand, Brenden, I don't know if there is an athlete, even LeBron, who has a bigger social media presence than Livy Dunn. It's insane. It's something I've had to learn about because I didn't know who she was, but she's not on team. The Instagram pop numbers, followers, likes, gang, we're letting it creep into our world. We're letting it creep into our sports world. Bronny James, is he better than other prospects? But think about the numbers. Shedeur Sanders, should he be the number one overall pick? Think about the Instagram followers. Is he the best quarterback, though? Stats happened, and then stats went nuts. Popularity is happening, and popularity is now going nuts. Now, speaking of numbers, we want high numbers for this because Toyota and us here at iHeartRadio, we want your help to fill the truck. canned and non-perishable food items that benefit the Oregon Food Bank. Hey, 2 locations this weekend. Fred Meyer in Coos Bay on Saturday, June the 15th, and then up the coast in Newport from noon to 2 on Sunday. Look for the specially marked Toyota Tundra while you're there. Enter for a chance to win a trip or 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival. Visit the events page at ripcityradio.com for a complete list of dates and locations, and join us at Fred Meyer as we fill the truck for the Oregon Food Bank. Countdown to kickoff on campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, wrapping up hour number 1. And a bit of breaking news happening right now. Obviously, it was just a few weeks ago we lost a legend in Bill Walton, and apparently we have lost another legend in the basketball world as Shams Charania and many others are reporting. Now, I'm making sure, yes, that is the correct Shams with 2.3 million followers. As it appears that Jerry West, the logo, the NBA legend, who I believe was working for the Clippers most recently, has passed away at the age of 86. So that happened literally 2 minutes ago. At least that reporting came out. So it's always kind of tough, right? Because you had like the Bill Walton passing happened, and nearly everyone in this business probably had an interaction. Especially if you were here in the Pacific Northwest, if you covered the Pac-12, you probably had, whether it was just a quick "Hey, Bill," or you probably had an interaction with him, and so that one it kind of felt very personal when we lost Bill Walton, and it felt like losing a friend, even though many of us were not friends, but you felt like it. Like I said, I interviewed him a couple of times. Most everybody had some sort of interaction, whether it's just a picture or a "Hey, how you doing?" or even just kind of a thumbs up and a smile. And then you got Jerry West, who was obviously a prominent basketball, so prominent he's the logo. He is the logo of the NBA, coming off of a Sports Illustrated photo. And when the NBA created their logo, that's Jerry West dribbling. But a guy who it's always,
even though the NBA won't say it's him. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that back and forth. They're like, it looks just like him, but hey, it's not him.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly him. I mean,
yeah, it's
clearly like that picture from Sports Illustrated, I think from the finals against the Celtics.
Yes.
And it's clearly him. You think about, like, obviously, in and of itself, just being the logo, right? Huge contribution. I would be lying if I said I could tell you the absolute ins and the outs of Jerry West's career. I do know his time as as an executive has a lot of fingerprints on some of the Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry. If I'm mistaken, he was right there in Golden State, right, when they were kind of putting together that team.
Two of the biggest free agent acquisitions in NBA history. Not only did he, like everything you just mentioned, but he orchestrated getting Shaq out of Orlando.
That's right. Yeah, he got Shaq to the Los Angeles Lakers.
And he orchestrated.
And bringing, I think he was part of the Kobe draft.
He was. And then perhaps his best, he was the icing on the cake that made one Kevin Durant choose the Golden State Warriors, and that was just recent. What, 2016?
And I know I think Bob Myers gets a lot of credit for kind of building that Golden State Warriors team, but Jerry West was kind of right there,
sneaky,
in being a part of that as well. On top of it's very simple. It's very simple, and sometimes. The simplest answer is the best. I believe that's Occam's razor is what we call that. Well, I don't call it that. Occam did. Sometimes, a lot of times, most oftentimes, the simplest answer is the best. But sometimes it's not as easy as that. And we talk about it a lot, myself included, and probably from a place of ignorance. I just don't know because I wasn't around back then. But I've said it multiple times on this show. The NBA was built on Magic and Bird, right? March Madness was built on Magic and Bird. You had Magic versus Bird in the NBA Finals. March Madness became a thing back then from the 70s into the 80s. Then Magic and Bird took that championship DNA, took that championship legacy from college, and then had a decade-long battle between the Celtics and the Lakers. And that is what created, and then that gave way to Michael Jordan, and then Michael Jordan took it to the stratosphere, and now we have the NBA making a gajillion dollars the way it is right now. And that's the simple answer. But I'm fairly certain if we went back and looked, there is a whole lot more to the basketball in the NBA previous to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird coming into the league. And obviously one of those is Jerry West. And again, I know it was a depiction. I know it was a based on a true story, but you mentioned, Brenden, him bringing Shaq to the Lakers, but also right there in Los Angeles with Pat Riley and Jerry Buss.
Winning time.
And creating the Showtime Lake. So you think about, this was a guy who won an NBA championship. He is the logo of the league, was in the front office for the Showtime Lakers, was also in the front office for the resurgence of the Los Angeles Lakers, because after Magic Johnson retired with HIV and Michael Jordan took over, like, the Lakers were not the Lakers. It wasn't until like the late 90s when you mentioned it, they brought Shaq over and then drafted a kid out of Lower Merion High School named Kobe Bryant, and then all of a sudden, boom, which is why we're talking about the Lakers coaching search today. Jerry West got his fingerprints all over that. Then was, like you mentioned, part of the Golden State Warriors.
One ring as a player, 8 as an executive. So that's 9. Yeah. 9 rings across.
But he was also, I believe, and again, I could have my math and my age and my years all wrong, but that was he did get the 1 ring as a player, but really fell at the feet of the mighty Boston Celtics and Bill Russell and Red Auerbach and all of those.
I want to say he lost 5 times in the finals, or 4 or 5, so that's tough.
Yeah.
But again, the legacy, like you said, Justin, I remember at the time there was, when he passed, there was a huge movement to make Kobe's fadeaway the new logo of the NBA.
Yeah.
And
or the Jumpman logo.
Right. And the fact that the NBA has been so steadfast in never changing the logo tells me it probably never will. Jerry West isn't one of those people who later in life would go, hey, we don't like him. Like, we like Jerry West. His legacy, Justin, will live on forever in that case. Like, he's not propped up enough, but he should be.
Pioneer of the game. Well,
maybe, but I just mean by, like, the kids today. Do they know Jerry West and know his impact like a Bill Russell?
Well, they're going to learn today, because there's going to be an awful lot of people talking about it today. But, yeah, you think about as a pioneer of the league, then ultimately being the silhouette of the logo, then as an executive, Showtime Lakers, Shaq and Kobe Lakers, Golden State Warriors run, fingerprints all over it.
2, Justin, I think you will appreciate this as well. National champion at Virginia, so college winner too.
West Virginia.
Yeah, sorry, West Virginia. Yes, correct. Sorry, that's it.
Mountaineers will come after you.
Did I say regular Virginia?
Yeah,
sorry.
Mountaineers will come after you.
West Virginia. But yeah, I mean, that's something.
All right, coming up, we got hour number 2 on the way next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. We start the day with sad news in the basketball world. Just came down minutes ago as Los Angeles Clippers, but NBA icon Jerry West has passed away at the age of 86. More on that coming up here in the next hour. NBA Finals will continue tonight with the series now shifting to Dallas. Game 3, Celtics leading 2-0 over the Mavericks. Tip-off is set for 5:30 on ABC. Kristaps Porzingis listed as questionable with a rare injury suffered in Game 2. Coming up in hour number 3, we're going to talk to Tyson Alger, friend of the program. But hour number 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Coming up in, approximately 20 minutes, we will have a Make or Miss. Coming up in 45 minutes, stuff we saw on the internet. Also saw an interesting story out of the U.S. Open. So we will dive into that. And Tyson Alger is going to be joining us in hour number 3. Woo. That snack during the break really hit me.
You okay?
I'll be all right. Okay, I think I'm back.
Blink twice if you're okay.
Bark twice if you're in Milwaukee. All right. But we start with sad news. It was just reported a handful of minutes ago that Hall of Famer and legend icon, everything is appropriate, but Jerry West has passed away at the age of 86. And you want to talk about, all right, maybe, and I don't think this is recency bias. I don't think this is hyperbole. I don't think, maybe one of the best basketball people, if not the best basketball person in NBA history. I think Michael Jordan's the best player in NBA history, right? And you look at Bill Russell's the best winner in NBA history. Kareem and LeBron are the best scorers in NBA history, right? But how many of them went on to have a career as an executive? Jordan tried, didn't work. Didn't work. Magic Johnson tried to be a coach, didn't work. Tried to be an executive, didn't work. So you think about the rare...
Magic Johnson famously quit. Remember that? I won't be here.
I'm not going to be here. I'll tweet whatever I want. But think about... Let's just kind of try to put this into context. Jerry West may have been, if not, the greatest basketball person. Won the NBA championship in 1972, was the finals MVP in 1969 in a series they lost. That's how important he was. Series they lost. He was a 14-time NBA All-Star. He was the All-Star Game MVP in 72. He was All-NBA First Team 10 times. 10 times. 4 times All-Defensive Team. He was a scoring champion in 1970. He led the league in assists in 1972. His numbers retired by the Lakers. And going back to college, Final Four, most outstanding player of 1959. Lost. Didn't win the Final Four. 2-time consensus All-American. His number was retired by both the Los Angeles Lakers and the West Virginia Mountaineers. That's his accomplishments as a player. That's unbelievable, right? You think of 10-time All-NBA first team, Finals MVP, Finals participant, I believe 5 times. So now let's go and take a look and with some more detail and some more context as we had 6 minutes of the break to kind of figure some things out. Began his career as an executive after giving up the head coaching title for the Los Angeles Lakers in 1979, right? And he was a big part of the Laker dynasty of the late 60s and of the 70s. He was the general manager. He worked as a scout for 3 seasons, then was named the general manager 82-83. As a scout and a prominent fixture in the front office, had a huge hand in building what would become the Showtime Lakers that would have 5 NBA championships. Now, I don't know how much of the TV show that I watched on HBO or the books that were written are how accurate, but it sounds like also fairly instrumental in putting Pat Riley in the head coaching position, which ultimately would lead to 4 of those 5 championships.
Well, I mean, this is one thing they definitely didn't get wrong in the winning time, Justin. The most awkward press conference ever, naming Jerry West the offensive coordinator,
yes,
and Pat Riley the coach.
Head coach, yes.
But they're both coaches. I mean, so that alone is it's probably the funniest press conference, one of all time.
So he was there as the executive and as a general manager from 79 to 2000. Now, Brenden, you mentioned it. Something happened with the Lakers back in the late 90s, which was they got Shaq. So
how he wined and dined that is amazing. Wizardry.
So let's put some context in here. 90-91 season, they go to the NBA Finals, right? And that is essentially the last of the Showtime Lakers. They have been in the finals in 89, lost to the Pistons, won the finals back-to-back the years before that. Lost in the conference finals, I believe that was the Rockets. Won the finals the year before that. Magic Johnson announces his retirement due to contracting HIV. After that, it looks like the Lakers dynasty might be over. Because after they lose in the finals in 91, 92, they lose in the first round. They were 43-39. Losing record in 92-93, lost in the first round. Did not make the playoffs, 33-49 from 93 to 94. And then something happened on the way to L.A. Jerry West went and got Shaq. It looked like maybe the Laker dynasty was over as an executive. Goes and he gets Shaq. And then in 1997, drafts his high school kid out of Philadelphia. Now, he would retire or leave the Lakers after the 2000 season, but his fingerprints all over that roster saw 1, 2, 3 championships in a row, losing to the Spurs in the conference semis, and then 4 trips to the finals in 5 years. Any executive with that track record, we're unbelievable, right? We're unbelievable. Then he went to the Memphis Grizzlies. From 02 to 07, was named Executive of the Year. In 2004, brought in Paul Gasol and retired. Got back into the game and took on the Golden State Warriors as an executive board member. But I know there's a lot of behind the scenes are like, yeah, Jerry West was the one putting those teams together. Executive board member, not exactly the GM, but the Golden State Warriors he joins in May of 2011. This is where it gets nuts in terms of his accomplishments as a GM. From 1995 to 2011, from 1995 to 2011, Brenden, any guess how many playoff appearances the Golden State Warriors would have? The Golden State Warriors from 95 to 2011, any guess as to how many NBA Finals, or not NBA Finals, NBA playoffs appearances they would have?
Well, I know there's one for the We Believe Warriors for sure.
Yep.
There might not be a second.
One.
We Believe, right?
One. And they were the 8th seed.
And they beat the one, though, right?
Yes, they were 42-40 that year. They beat the Dallas Mavericks. Lost in the second round. But
Baron Davis, man.
But you think about what are the Golden State Warriors right now? They're one. One
most
of the
most valuable.
The most valuable franchise. The most valuable franchise, according to Forbes, in all of the NBA. Well, in my childhood, and my young adulthood, and my adulthood, they were doormat. They didn't do anything. They went to the playoffs one time in 2007. That's it. That's all. Jerry West takes over in May of 2011, right? So heading in, so the end of the 2010-2011 year. So it goes into 11-12. They're still 23-43. Starts to put some stuff together, though.
Drafted a guy in 2011. I wonder if
2011 made a pretty important draft.
They did.
Number 6 pick, I believe. Or 7 pick, excuse me. Number 7 overall?
No.
Number 6.
Oh, well, sorry. I think 2010 was Steph.
2010 was Steph.
2011 was Clay at 11.
Drafted Clay at 11. Creates the Splash Brothers.
Pretty good.
So they would not make the playoffs. They would be 23-43 that first year of Jerry West as executive board member and pretty much in charge of scouting and drafting. 47-35 conference semifinals. 51-31 got bounced in the first round. Got Mark Jackson fired. 67-15 won the NBA Finals. 73-9. We all know how that one ended. Lost in the finals to LeBron, but 73-win season, won the finals, lost in the finals, COVID gap, won the finals again. Now, he would be done after the 2017 season, but again, think about this. There are, in my estimation, actual legitimate dynasties in the NBA. 80s Lakers, 80s Celtics. 90s Bulls. Early 2000s Lakers. Spurs are mixed in there. And the Golden State Warriors. In my opinion, there's 6. There are 6 NBA dynasties in the history of this league. What I would consider a dynasty. Brenden, he built 3 of them. He built 3 of them. Half of the dynasties. Showtime Lakers, 2000s Lakers, Golden State Warriors. So when you think about player accomplishments, executive accomplishments, legacy fully intact because he's the logo of the league. And by the way, nobody has ever said, hey, shouldn't be the logo. Maybe the best basketball mind, maybe the best basketball person we know. That's Jerry West.
One more thing just to add on there as well, Justin, and obviously not a dynasty, but I'll throw this out there too, because I think it's you know the last thing he did, because even as of now he was still an executive board member for the Clippers was his last thing. Justin, tell everyone here at home, Kawhi Leonard didn't necessarily want to come to the Clippers when he wanted to come home to L.A. Again, maybe the last thing he helped do was kind of shepherded Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers. Granted, did they win anything? No, but as Justin and I have said, when that team came together, you didn't think that was a super team?
It's the last of the super teams. It really is. All right, so we may talk about this a little bit more. We do have Make or Miss, and that's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 1 hour from now, Tyson Alger is going to be joining the program from the I-5 corridor, and he has got his continued series on getting to know the Big Ten for Oregon fans. Latest getting to know or taking a look back at the relationship Michigan State. So I'm sure Brenden will be looking forward to that conversation. You still planning on going to Michigan State game?
No, well, going is a stretch, but I'll be actively rooting for Oregon that day. I'll be one of the first.
You can get a media credential, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or
you can't boo from the press box.
But
though. That would be a bad look, not only for the show,
but for my own journalistic credentials too.
Yeah.
Right?
Also that they'd be like, wait, dude, the Beaver's Edge guy just came in here. He was booing
now
in the press box. But you could get a credential, get in, and then like 5 minutes, put it in the back pocket, go out, get boo, hiss, traitor, turncoat, liar, and then head back up and
it's not a bad idea.
Get some food.
Also, may just look. I think there's unfortunately, I thought there was a Beaver road game. I think there's a Beaver home game that day, so that'll make things.
Well, depending on kickoff time, you might be able to pull off both.
Kickoff time will be curious. But Justin, like not publicly, but between you and I, and like the text message feeds between us. You may see me rocking a Oregon themed apparel something that day. I haven't ruled that out. So it might be like buy something for that game and then like donate it, because I would never keep it, of course.
Have you ever worn any Oregon gear?
No.
Ever in your life? Never. Once? Ever?
Never. So maybe a hat or something. Actually, a visor would be very appropriate, I think.
You would probably be surprised by this. When I was in high school, my high school baseball coach played baseball at Oregon State, and it was always like a fun rivalry thing. And then like I, as a joke, because I got an Oregon State baseball shirt. Now this was 1998. Oregon State baseball was not what Oregon State baseball is.
No.
But I had gotten, I don't know how I got it. I think my mom was getting like her master's degree from Oregon State, and I think she saw like a baseball shirt, and she was like, hey, here you go. And like, so under my jersey, my entire senior year of high school, I wore an Oregon State baseball shirt as kind of
awesome.
a funny joke to my head coach, because also Oregon didn't have a baseball team. So I've worn Beaver gear before.
That's actually,
believe it or not.
That's actually pretty cool. Last little story with this, because you just reminded me of a childhood memory that I was thrown out with this. So again, Justin, you don't know what you believe. Sometimes your parents tell you tall tales when they were young too.
Yes.
And you're not entirely like, I caught a fish that just, gets bigger and bigger as the story goes. So my dad and uncle tell a story that this would have been the late 80s, early 90s when they were in
glorious time of the year of the world.
When they were in college time, and Oregon State was pretty good in basketball. And I believe Oregon was at least solid at the time. And
I think Terrell Brenden.
Yeah.
I guess Terrell Brenden back then.
And they would tell.
Didn't make the tournament, but
still
solid.
Yeah.
They were probably mediocre.
And you would appreciate this, Justin. Maybe you wouldn't. They tell a story about how, I guess back then it was a little easier to get into the student section at MacArthur Court. And my dad and uncle tell a story for a Beaver Duck game somewhere in that window. Well, they went to the Oregon Ducks bookstore, bought 2 yellow shirts, big old Oregon T-shirts, had Beaver stuff on underneath, used it to get into the student section, took off those shirts, and watched Oregon State. So I don't think I'd ever do that. That's pretty bold. But I must say, like, there may be a hat that's worn, Justin, or something like a picture will live on that you will enjoy that day.
I remember a story from a long time ago in kind of that same spirit. And I'm not going to call your dad and your uncle liars. I will say this.
I kind of needed a picture, but I just believe him.
Yeah. Well, again, back then, not a lot of pictures.
It's
right?
true, right?
I'm sure it has happened. I will say this. It was, from what I've been told, the old barn of MacArthur Court, the locks weren't always the most secure. And there was a lot of doors.
Okay.
It's a lot of doors in that
to the outside
in that old barn, right? And there were many ways in and out, and there was not anywhere close to enough blue windbreakers to secure. Like, if you have a chance, and it's going to be a weird happenstance, but if you're ever there around MacArthur Court, just take a lap around that old building. There's so many doors. There are so many doors, and people may have, thrown a distraction or had a friend on the inside pop open a door on the side because they didn't have enough people to guard. Sam MacArthur Court was not the most secured fortress.
Yeah, I can believe it. I can believe it. And yeah, to that point,
I could see two eager Oregon State lads wearing a yellow shirt, and you just wander in, and you're like, they look like they're supposed to be here.
Yep.
Wasn't the most secured fortress maybe in all of the NCAA. Also, it was a different time back then.
It was.
9/11 hadn't happened yet.
You weren't scanning tickets. And all
you're
those
ripping
things.
tickets.
But yeah, no, to that point, Justin, I've oddly enough, I've always been fascinated with history. As a kid, that whole story started when I asked, I would assume dad or uncle, have you been to Matt Court? They're like, one time.
One time.
And I remember being like, it'd be really cool to go. I never had a chance to go before it was closed. It'd be one of those things that it's obviously kind of in use and not demolished. I would like to go in there one day and just kind of take a little peep around. And
I wonder if it still smells the same. It had a smell. Like, not a bad smell, not a good smell, but a unique, like, you walk in and it was just like, it was a very old building. You used to be able to smoke in the building, believe it or not.
Gil, you could too. So
yeah, you used to be able to smoke in the building, but it had like, like you walk into an old house with like the floors that creak, and you kind of has like a smell of like, yeah, boy, there's been some living in this house. That and the popcorn and the radiator because it had a radiator for a heater. But yeah, there was this one story, and then we'll get to make or miss here. I'll be brief.
I'm enjoying this.
I think it was like,
this would be make or miss
extension. I think it was like 2004. So Oregon was playing at USC. And USC had a student section, and part of their student section, much like, I don't know if they do it anymore. They used to do it all the time, where to get into the student section, you had to have a student ticket, a student ID, and you had to wear the shirt because they would wear, like the pit crew had a shirt. And so that was how you would, so everybody in the student section was wearing the same shirt. And then it was like a advertisement on the back because that's where the cameras were. And so USC had a student section, and their shirts were the gold, right? And then at halftime, they had what most every other halftime has, or maybe in the middle of a game, half-court shot for, $1,000 or whatever. And this kid at the Oregon USC game, I want to say 04, 05, wearing the student section shirt, goes out, boom, nails a half-court shot, goes ballistic, tears off student section shirt, wearing an Oregon basketball jersey underneath. He was from Portland. He was doing grad school at USC, but he was from Oregon. And then ran over to the radio broadcast where Jerry Allen was doing the play-by-play and was like, "Hey, Jerry, I'm a big..." Then they were like, "Yeah, you don't get to win." They took his money away.
Oh, no.
And I think there was like a whole lawsuit or everything, but like they tried to take his money away.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean,
anyways, that was...
what was your when you were last thing? I promise we'll get into make or miss. But did you ever like you told me you've done broadcasts when you were down there in Eugene? Did you guys ever do anything live from like Matt Court or anything?
I never did.
Okay,
never did basketball. But
even just like a radio
I went to so many games there.
Yeah.
Watched Dave Chappelle there one time.
That's cool.
Saw Dave Chappelle do stand up there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Watched Randy Macho Man Savage and a group back in the 80s. They did wrestling there one time with my aunt and my cousin. So I did that at MacArthur Court. Watched so many games, can't even count. But never did a broadcast from there. Did Steve Tannen, friend of the program, and we did the pregame show for the opener of Matthew Knight Arena. We were there when nobody else, we were there. They were setting out the T-shirts. But as you might imagine, Old Barn, MacArthur Court, other than the play-by-play home visitor and then the TV crew on the other side,
space was probably limited.
No other way to do a show.
Yeah.
I did a pregame show for years, but that was at Taylor's.
I got it. Makes sense.
R.I.P. to Taylor's, by the way.
If do you think Duck fans would? And I don't even know if this is realistic. But say the building was still safe to enter, and I have no idea. I would assume it still is. But like, if there was like a,
I think they do PE stuff there.
Yeah,
they
if
still
there was
do
like,
PE stuff.
if they did like a throwback game, like once a year, where it's like they play somebody small, maybe not even anybody, but like Portland State. And it's
Let me
like,
tell you why they should do it.
would Duck fans attend it?
I don't know.
See, that's the question.
I don't know,
Would
but
it be
here's why they
attended?
should do it, because there's a lot of people that are that complain, and I have been kind of one of them. They complain a lot about Matthew Knight Arena. It's too loud. It's the parking's terrible. There's been a lot of complaints about Matthew Knight Arena. They should, for if any other reason, to show everybody just how comfortable Matthew Knight Arena is. Squeeze into those chairs one more time.
Hey, if they do
Because we forgot. It was 2009 last time we were at Matthew Knight Arena. 2010, I think. 2010, we were at MacArthur Court. Squeeze into those chairs one more time, and we'll find out real fast how you love Matthew Knight Arena. But I would be all for it.
It could be cool. They should, if anyone
just
listens,
one game, just bring it back. But
it'd be cool.
Probably won't. Just like I want to see the one football game a year, like against. Like they're playing Idaho this year, first game. Throwback jerseys, but actual throwbacks. Not the new version, not the new state-of-the-art, technologically advanced throwbacks, but they look like the old. I want the old ones. Mesh shirts, heavy, sweaty, stinky, big shoulder pads, neck rolls. I want it all. You're playing Idaho. You're going to win. All right. Let's get to make or miss. By the way, I did, because earlier in the show, remember I said for the 3 hours, if you want to criticize me or anything on Twitter, more than welcome to. Tip of the cap, Mike on Twitter, on X, he corrected me because I said that Jerry West drafted Kobe Bryant. Charlotte Hornets drafted Kobe Bryant, and then the Lakers traded Vlade Divac to the Charlotte Hornets. It was a trade. Now, you can't trade picks in the NBA, and it was an orchestrated deal, and they were drafting.
Yeah, the semantics.
I don't know if they were drafting for the Lakers, but it was very clear that Kobe did not want to play for Charlotte and that there was a deal was already being orchestrated to get him to L.A. But fair enough. Fair enough.
That's correct. Yeah, I actually saw that yesterday.
He acquired Kobe Bryant via trade.
Yeah, it was no matter what. It was.
Thank you to Mike for keeping me on my toes.
Yeah, it was something really simple. Like, no matter what, whether or not Kobe was there, whoever the Hornets or the Lakers told the Hornets to pick, that was going to be that. For Divac, that's a whole big old story and all that. But before we get into make or miss, want to make sure, Justin, if it ends up happening, can we have it on the record that I threw out? I was probably the first person to throw out, go back to McCourt, even just for one game. Yeah. I haven't seen that out there, so if it happens,
I don't think it's going to happen.
I gotta take my victory lap. And you know why it's not going to happen? Because you're going to get somebody important who goes, I have an obstructed view. So,
a lot of obstructed views and a lot of
corners, right?
I don't even know if they can handle a game anymore. I don't know what the upkeep has been like. Like, you can do PE class and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'd be curious just to.
The thing was built in the 30s.
Yeah, Justin should, like Justin said, find one of the open doors and peer inside and see how it's doing. But anyway, let's get into make or miss. Justin, I want your take on this because I don't think it ever will. But up first on make or miss, the NBA logo will never change.
Never, should never. And I saw this also on Twitter, and I will say that perfect time for Adam Silver and the NBA to come out and just be like, yeah, that is Jerry West. Because like you mentioned, the NBA has said, no, it's a coincidence. It looks like him, but it's not him. And I don't know if maybe there's some legal part, like whoever took that picture.
Jerry West tried to sue them unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of funny.
But also you have to wonder who, because you know this because you live in the internet world of copyright infringement. I don't know who took that picture, but if in fact the photographer from Sports Illustrated or Sports Illustrated, whoever owned the copyright of that logo, like how much is that worth? How much is that worth? If they ultimately just said, yeah, that picture that you took, we put it on our logo. It's $1 billion deal, right? Are we into the billions there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would assume that is again, the NBA will not and had not admitted it was West in the logo, because then they would have to give him royalties.
Yeah.
Which would have.
And also, probably not only him, but I would assume either the photographer, if still alive, don't know, or Sports Illustrated probably wants their bite of the pie, too. They're like, you just took our cover and put it as your logo.
I mean, I just don't think it would ever. I don't think it would ever change, Justin. Like, if it hasn't changed at this point, like I said, I really thought
it should never change. And by the way, and I love Michael Jordan. I do. I love Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's logo belongs on Air Jordans.
Yeah, the Jumpman
not on the logo. It shouldn't be there, which is funny because ultimately Nike got the uniform deal, and every once in a while, you'll see the logo.
You'll
see the Jumpman there.
Pretty cool,
but
right?
the NBA logo is the NBA logo. It should never change. It should have never been discussed to be changed. It's a fine logo. It never needed to be changed. And I would think maybe, I don't know, again, because people grieve in different ways, and who knows how the estate of Jerry West would handle this. But if, in fact, they could all just get out of the way, maybe like a donation to charity, in Jerry West's name, and they say, yeah, the Jerry West is the logo. Yeah.
It'd be really classy.
It's him.
It'd be
But if you are Jerry West's estate, you're going like, yeah, you owe us some money. I don't. People grieve in different ways.
It's tricky. It's complicated. And again, I'm not going to, I don't judge, but it's just an observation. This is the same, you said estate, but, Jerry West, the same people that straight up said, we're suing you, HBO, because we hate how we're portrayed in Winning Time. Now, again, that ultimately was settled, and we never heard any more out of that, because that's usually what happens with TV shows and things like that.
How would you deal with that? I don't think I would handle it very well either. If somebody did a movie on, I don't know, let's say they made somebody made a movie about, the Chip Kelly Oregon Ducks, right? And they made some redheaded loudmouth pregame show host.
It'd have to be Alan Tudyk.
Get Alan Tudyk to play me.
Has to be.
Who would play Steve Tannen?
Oh, that would be a great question. It's got to be a New Yorker.
Yeah. Who's that one guy? Adrian Brody? He played.
Yeah, I can see.
Adrian Brody. So you get Alan Tudyk and Adrian Brody.
Yeah.
But if they made me out to look like a terrible, terrible person.
Do you sue?
I think I might.
Yeah, see, if you had money, you might.
Well, I have my, I have a legal team. All right,
you do have some legal.
I have easy.
Some legal.
Paperwork's going to get filed. I think I would.
I think this is something we can look at right now.
Especially if you're just like, dude, you're Jerry West. You're like, I'm just trying to live my life as an executive. You made me out to look like the biggest, let's say, jerk.
Yeah. Now
of the 1980s. Like, what are we doing?
Now I'm going to say
unless that was accurate, and then who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and my last point on this, Justin, I think we can see it right before us right now, because I'm no expert, but considering that, and I'll say this, he has no leg to stand on or anything, but considering that he is still alive and kicking, you're telling me no one in Clipped might want to sue FX or Hulu? A lot of really rich people being portrayed in that. Doc Rivers, the Sterlings.
Well, here's the problem, and I know this because I am married to a very successful and smart lawyer. The reason why a lot of people don't want to sue is because when you do, you open yourself up for deposition.
Countersuits.
And who not countersuits. No, you can be deposed. The other side gets to question you under oath on camera, and if you are a liar, and if you say, no, this never happened, and then they're like, that's what happened to O.J. Simpson. Okay, real quick.
Yes.
O.J. Simpson, Ronald Goldman, or I think O.J. Simpson sued the Goldman family over some stuff. And so they were like, all right, great, we get to depose him now. And they were like, do you ever own a pair of Bruno Magli shoes? And he's like, I would never own those ugly shoes. And he said that on camera under oath. Then National Enquirer was like, O.J., you wearing the shoes right here in this picture, and that's one of the reasons why they got him. So either way, it should always stay the logo. It should be the logo forever. And if there's a way to financially do it, just admit that was the logo. All right. Before we get to stuff we saw on the internet to wrap up hour number 2, Rip City Radio is keeping the Ticket Tuesday winning streak alive. Congratulations to whoever won yesterday, because exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long being given away on Rip City Drive every Tuesday afternoon. Listen for your chance to win next Tuesday, or get your Hops tickets at hillsborohops.com. Stuff we saw on the internet next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. We have labeled this segment stuff we saw on the internet. Earlier this week, we had a discussion about a bull that got loose at the Sisters Rodeo. Haven't seen an update on that, by the way.
I did. Yeah,
you did?
You see?
Everybody's doing good? Story to tell?
Not going to rodeo anymore. Avoided being put down.
Oh, good.
So
the bull didn't do anything
he's going
wrong.
back.
The bull just acted like what a bull would do.
Yeah, he's going back to some farm.
Oh,
and,
no.
And that's not a metaphor.
Brenden.
It's not
Is he
going to
go to a farm?
It's like back to a bull farm.
A
like
farm upstate where he can run all day long? No. I know what that means.
So, yes, no, the terrible choice of words, but that's literally what the story I read said, is that the guy goes, yeah, he'll just go back to, where the other bulls are raised. A cattle drive. How about that? There you go, Justin.
I don't know if he should be on a cattle drive either. I think. Poor bull. Didn't do anything wrong. Just again, thoughts are, and hopefully a speedy recovery for the people at the hospital, especially the woman who was upended. Maybe rethink wearing a red shirt. I don't know. I don't want victim blame. I don't want to victim blame, but I don't know about wearing a red shirt to a rodeo with a bull. I don't know if I would anymore.
I have worn a big old red 4th of July shirt.
I'd rethink that one this year.
I might need to go to gray this year.
Bull gets out at St. Paul. All of a sudden, there's Brenden with a big old red shirt that says, "Come get some, bull."
I wouldn't want to dodge a bull with a Red Bull Monster.
All of a sudden, you're upended halfway to
I'm good.
Dundee.
You're right. I'm going silver this year.
All right. So, Brenden found this. We have national rankings. National rankings are in. Brenden eats fast food, 2-3 times a week?
Yes, fair.
I used to eat fast food each and every day. I don't anymore. I miss it every single day. I really do. I drive to the gym past a Taco Bell, and I am going to the gym, and they're going to Taco Bell, and I'm like, oh, those lucky bastards. But I do have, even though I don't eat a lot of fast food anymore, I do have somewhat of a frame of reference. We have the fast food rankings. Fast food rankings. This is the American Customer Satisfaction Index. They gather information for 500,000 customers interviewed annually and inputs it into a multi-equation model developed by the University of Michigan. Let's go blue.
It's to be very in-depth.
Yes, unlike other organizations that measure things like revenue and volume of customers or purchase per year, the American Consumer Satisfaction Index is unique in its focus on customer experience and satisfaction. That's how these rankings are made. So if knowing what I just heard of it is customer satisfaction.
How we feel when we go there. Yep.
No surprise Chick-fil-A comes in number 1.
Oh, totally. Yep. My pleasure. I mean, who else is going to say thank you for coming? I think a McDonald's employee is going to say thank you for coming and patronizing his or her restaurant.
Now, I have said this. I believe the chicken at Chick-fil-A is a mighty bit overrated. I believe it's good, because everybody gets all huffy and puffy when I say this. It's like, overrated doesn't mean bad.
No. Yeah.
You guys elevate the chicken at Chick-fil-A because the experience is probably so great. I am amazed. Say again, amazed at the way that there could be 14 cars in line and an army of headset-wearing Chick-fil-A employees can take my order on an iPad in the parking lot, and yet they get it right almost every single time when I get up to that window.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at it. I don't know what their system is. And like you said, the politeness, and they say my pleasure and all of that. And that, I think, elevates it to where you think, like, this might be the best gall darn chicken I've ever had. It's not. It's fine. But the way that line moves, it's unbelievable.
Oh, it is.
They're number 1.
I don't, like I said, you think about everything, like, I really don't disagree, and I don't think there's anywhere else in food service. I like In-N-Out Burger. They're not saying my pleasure.
They are not efficient.
And saying thank you, all those kind of things.
Do you think that In-N-Out in Kaiser purposely has a slow drive-through so it looks like they're busy all the time? I think they do. I think that's on purpose.
Yeah, I went through it not too long ago.
I think it's like a club. You go to a club, you go to your XS club. They always have that big, long line because it looks like it's the place to be. They could put all those people up there. They could. but they choose not to because they want to keep that line big, and so it looks like a cool spot to be.
I think you could be on something there.
There we go. We're going to do some investigation. So the
Any
rest...
surprises in this top 5 for you? For me, there's one.
Massive comeback for Papa John's.
Yeah, that was it.
That one, Papa John's sitting in. So Domino's, not a surprise. Again, Domino's pizza is what it is. I've never had a bad experience at a Domino's because I know going in. Do you think that's also it? You manage some expectations. You go into McDonald's or you go into Domino's, you don't expect all that much.
Yes.
So Domino's sitting tied with Five Guys and Pizza Hut. They're not going to like that they're tied with Pizza Hut and Starbucks. So there's your tied for 5th is Starbucks, Pizza Hut, Five Guys, Domino's.
Let's talk the bad ones, Justin, because that's always the most fun.
Which is interesting because with a score of 72, third from the bottom, your former home of Sonic.
Does not surprise me
of
one
Sonic.
bit.
What's going on at Sonic, Brenden? You used to work there. Now you also worked at Five Guys. Five Guys in the top 5, Sonic in the bottom 3. Is it a culture problem?
Just on the surface, yeah. Like Five Guys, very, very care very much about a lot of the little things. Sonic, at least when I was there, it was a little bit more profit driven,
quantity, not quality. Let's get those cherry limeades out and moving on.
So I'll say this with the PG language. So, you know how at Sonic you can either, as a car hop, you bring someone out their food. You can either take it to them with your 2 feet, or you can roller skate.
I think haven't they eliminated the roller skating though? It's like
that would be news to me.
We might want to investigate that. I think
we'll
it's a
check
liability.
into that. But this story, Justin, with more colorful language, my former boss at one point said, "My car hops, bleep, run," and it was if you didn't run, you got a hollering at.
Wouldn't you?
So it was a different time, man. It's like a decade. 11 years ago now.
How do you run with a tray full of food? Is it when you get to get the order? But
you're running with the tray.
With the tray full of food,
yes.
you go.
Oh, it was a challenge, Justin. Okay. My car hops run. I'll never forget it.
Now, the bottom 2, Taco Bell and McDonald's, which is interesting because I would put Taco Bell and McDonald's probably the most popular of the places, but apparently customer satisfaction is down. I ride for McDonald's.
I could see it, though, with customer satisfaction based on recent experiences.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Do you think it's because there's so many McDonald's that they're going to get more bad apples? A bigger bushel is going to produce more bad apples, 100%. And that there's just so many McDonald's out there that there's just going to be
less quality control.
Yeah. I also just order a quarter pounder with cheese and a fry every time. So same thing with me at Starbucks, right? Starbucks, I have the easiest Starbucks order there is. So my customer satisfaction is very high, except for when you screw it up because it's the easiest order it is.
It's true.
I do not make things complicated. So yeah, McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Brendan's bad culture at Sonic. Bad culture.
Back then. Don't come after me, Sonic.
Well, bottom 3 right now. All right, we have got hour 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. We begin with sad news earlier today as NBA icon Jerry West has passed away at the age of 86. 10-time All-NBA, 14-time All-Star, and 8-time NBA champion as an executive, not to mention NBA Finals MVP and NBA champion himself. More on that coming up in a bit. NBA Finals are set to continue tonight with the series now heading back to Dallas for Game 3. Tip-off is at 5:30. Celtics, Mavericks. Celtics have a 2-0 lead. Kristaps Porzingis listed as questionable with a rare injury. So rare, we don't know what to call it. Porzingis says he's going to give it everything he's got to try to play in Game 3. Tyson Alger, he gives it everything he's got when he's on the big show. That's coming up in 20 minutes. More on the legacy of Jerry West in hour number 3 as we start right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday. Tyson Alger is going to be joining us coming up in about 20 minutes. We have got RCM Mailbag coming up to wrap up the show, and we had a bunch of other goofy stuff we were going to talk about, and then sad news in the NBA world as Jerry West passed away, obviously probably known to most as the logo. Right? That's probably, if you were to ask just fans of NBA, like, hey, Jerry West, first thing you think of is the logo of the NBA, wasn't it? And I would imagine if you ask people who watched him play would probably talk a ton about toughness, grit, winning the championship, playing in the finals, winning finals MVP and not winning the finals. I believe it's the only time that's happened, right?
Not sure that's the best stat you want associated with you, but
I mean, but it's still, it's just one of those things where you're like, man, how good he must have played. Says probably would come, and then in-depth basketball fans, like super nerdy basketball fans who know like GMs by name and executives by name, will probably have a frame of reference to his work as an executive. So, I was looking at this earlier today because obviously, it's just what happens, sadly, when icons and legends pass away. You go back, take a look. Brenden, he's credited for 8 championships as an executive. Credited for 8. But, so those 8 championships, 80, 82, 85, 87, 88. Boom. Showtime Lakers. He was scout, offensive coordinator that one time. And then full GM by, I believe, 83. So 3 of those 5, he was the GM. 2 of those, he was a scout, but a lot of people would credit him for scouting out and bringing in much of the players that would create the Showtime Lakers, one of the NBA's biggest dynasties. So there you go. 5 there with the Lakers. Then the 2000 Lakers. 2015 Warriors, 2017 Warriors. But if we really dive into this, right, Lakers won 2000, 2001, 2002. They won 3 in a row. Why? Why did they win those 3? Yeah, Phil Jackson, big part of it. Got it. Not going to deny it. It was Phil Jackson. But probably the biggest part of it is I don't know if it's the greatest 1-2 punch in NBA history, but it's certainly up for conversation, and that is peak Kobe, peak Shaq playing together at the same time. At such a peak in both of their careers that it was too hot to handle, and ultimately they would break up a couple of years later. But I know that technically Jerry West only gets credit as an executive because he would move on and take an executive role with the Memphis Grizzlies in 2002. But who do you think put Kobe Bryant and Shaq on the same team? Because Phil Jackson wasn't the coach when they acquired Shaq from the Orlando Magic. Phil Jackson wasn't the coach when they acquired Kobe Bryant through trading of Vlade Divac and bringing him over from Charlotte. That was Jerry West. And say what you will about the reasons why, whether it's, Robert Horry hitting a big shot Bob, Phil Jackson managing to, for at least a handful of years, corral the egos of Kobe and Shaq. But to say that Jerry West didn't have his fingerprints on all three of those championships, as opposed to just the one that he gets credit for, would be a bit naive. Now, think about this. Goes to the Golden State Warriors. This is what I think the kids today probably don't understand. The Golden State Warriors were not even a laughingstock before he got there. They were out of sight, out of mind. It was a team that was just kind of on the schedule.
Worse than the Clippers or about equal ground?
About equal ground. The problem with the Clippers, the Clippers were in L.A., and it's like there was the juxtaposition of Lakers games sell out, Clipper games, you can get tickets for $20, right? That was the juxtaposition. And the Clippers kind of always wore that label of the doormat until they drafted Blake Griffin, got Chris Paul, and a couple of other things. But the Golden State Warriors were an afterthought. It was a team that was just on the schedule. Nothing, nobody said, hey, let's look at the Blazers schedule. When are the Warriors coming to town previous to 2012? That never happened. Guess what happens now? Hey, let's take a look at the schedule. When are the Warriors coming to town? And we know this because we have seen Moda Center full of a bunch of bandwagon Johnny-come-lately, just bought their jersey, still has a crease from when it was folded because you bought it off of Amazon, maybe even the cheap knockoff site, and we see them fill up Moda Center every time the Warriors come to town. That was not the case in the 90s. It was not the case in the 2000s. It was not the case until Jerry West got there, and all of a sudden, with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, did he draft Draymond Green? I think he did.
Draymond would have been 12, so yeah.
He drafted Draymond Green in the second round, other than the second greatest second-round draft pick of all time. I don't know of all time, but
yep.
Of basketball today. And while he left after that second championship, cannot deny Jerry West's fingerprints being on those last two, because he acquired Kevin Durant as well, right? So you cannot deny him having his fingerprints on those last two NBA finals. So if we are being realistic about Jerry West as an executive, I mentioned it earlier of the dynasties in the NBA, right? There was the Bill Russell Celtics. I failed to bring that one up, and that one's my bad because I'm a selfish Gen Xer. Sorry. But the Red Auerbach, Bill Russell Celtics, dynasty. The dynasty of those Celtics in the 80s, the dynasty of the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, the Bulls of the 90s, the Lakers of the 2000s, Golden State Warriors of the 2010s, and I would say the Spurs in there as well, the Tim Duncan. Now, they never really did that 3-in-a-row run, but you could not deny that the Spurs were the best-run organization in the NBA for a long time. So of the 7 dynasties of NBA history, and I don't think I'm missing one here, unless you want to count the Lakers also of the 60s and the 70s, even though they didn't win a ton of championships, went to the finals a lot. Jerry West built 3 of them. He built 3 of them. And if we're being honest about the number, while technically he's credited for 8, Brenden, you could slap 4 more on there. His fingerprints are over 12 championships as an executive. 12 championships.
Right. In a different way, I think he needs to be looked at, very much as how we look at Red Auerbach, right, and Bill Russell to an extent as being, the pillars of the old NBA, kind of, so to speak. And those guys won so many titles and did so many things. And that's all true. But it's without Jerry West, the Lakers are probably they're probably not 17 titles tied with the Celtics right now, right? They kind of had a history of losing before he got into the coaches and GM seat and all that. And to put together teams, Justin, with so many different eras, again, I don't know if it's true or not, but the TV show chooses me to believe that Jerry West is like, yeah, I don't want to coach. Go do it, Pat Riley. So, is that in my head, like him kind of giving his seal of approval for Pat Riley? Maybe Justin and I talked about how yesterday there's, 2 coaches that have won in L.A. recently, and he was one of them?
Yeah, it's Pat Riley and Phil Jackson. And Frank Vogel won.
Kind of.
Yeah,
kind of.
But other than that, it's two.
And his
ability. It's been 2 coaches who have won in L.A. By the way, they still don't have a head coach.
Right.
Still looking for a head coach. But yeah, when you talk about like the eras,
I don't know who else could build a team in the 80s, build a team in the 90s.
The 2000s, and then what the Warriors ultimately became. Because think about that. How many guys, and this is not a criticism, it's merely an observation. A lot of guys, a lot of executives, a lot of GMs get very stuck in their ways. This is how I build a team. This is the way I build a team. Well, he built a team around Magic Johnson, one of the most dynamic point guards of all time, arguably the greatest point guard of all time. Built a team around Magic Johnson. Then built a team inside, outside, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, in an era where you had a big man back to the basket. And I know that we look back with some rose-colored glasses on Kobe Bryant's career, as we should. Shaq was the best player on those championship teams. Now, Kobe was the better investment, but when Shaq wanted to, he was unstoppable. And I think he was like 40-some points a game in the playoffs. I could be making that number up. But to build a team around a big man and a dynamic shooting guard, then build a team around a backcourt that shoots volume with a head coach that's never coached before. It's pretty impressive to think about like how many other GMs would be like, no, I know how you build a team. You put a dynamic big man down there, you play inside out. That's how we're going to build. It's like, game's changing. Analytics, 3's more than 2. We've got these great shooters. Let's build a team that way. And then go and get Kevin Durant. And then he built the Clippers up and then went and got Kawhi Leonard too. So,
you don't think he was a part of that? I mean, whether or not it's right or wrong, but in addition to that, you don't think he was like, yeah, it's a good idea, and we'll see how it pans out to trade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 7 first-round picks for Paul George? So he was like, hey, let's go team him. That was Jerry West's thing. He could always get stars, Justin.
All right. Coming up, Tyson Alger is going to be joining the big show. Before we get to that, I do want to let you know about Toyota and us here at iHeartRadio, right? We need your help filling the truck with canned and non-perishable food items to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. If you're on the coast this weekend, head to Fred Meyer in Coos Bay on Saturday, June the 15th from noon to 2. Look for the specialty marked Toyota Tundra and bring your donations. And if you are in Newport, on Sunday, also from noon to 2, also at Fred Meyer, and with that specially marked Toyota Tundra, bring those donations. And while you're there, enter for a chance to win a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival in fabulous Las Vegas. Go to the events page at ripcityradio.com for a complete list of dates and locations, and join us at Fred Meyer as we fill the truck for the Oregon Food Bank. Tyson Alger joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the College World Series gets going Friday morning in Omaha, Nebraska, but the great state of Oregon will not be represented as both the Beavs and the Ducks went down on Sunday in very different ways. One team couldn't hit, the other couldn't pitch. Either way, when you can't do both, you don't get to go on to Omaha and participate in the Jello shot challenges and all the other fun stuff that comes along with it. But with the end of the game between Oregon State and Kentucky, we have reached an end of the once great Pac-12 10-8 conference, and on a warm night in Lexington, the Pac-12 became no more. Joining us to do a postmortem, a look ahead to the Big Ten for Oregon and what is looking ahead for Oregon State, our friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger, back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How are we doing?
I'm doing good this morning, Justin. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Anytime I get a chance to talk to you, Tyson, is a day that I wake up at my very early alarm and am giddy and excited and pumped for.
I mean, this is the exact same way I would describe my feelings of being on the radio here with you. So let's do this thing.
All right, let's talk Oregon baseball. Different season, Tyson. Different year. Different opponent in the Super Regional. Same result. Couldn't pitch out of the bullpen. What the heck is going on? Where's this NIL money going? Can we find a couple of? That's what Oregon does, right? Something goes wrong. We call up Division Street, which we know who runs that, and then we buy some replacements. Where's the relief pitchers?
Yeah, there's got to be one football player out of the transfer portal that doesn't work out, that they can take that salary and probably fund the entire baseball program
exactly.
with it, I would imagine. Yeah, that was a tough watch, especially in game 2 when Oregon gets up early there and you're just kind of doing that this feels like this was too many runs too early sort of thing, and you just kind of expected the comeback to come, and man, that implosion with all the walks and hit by batters, that was one of the more probably, I don't know if this is the most disappointing super regional the Ducks haven't made it out, because there wasn't necessarily a dropped fly ball that cost them the difference between making it to the College World Series or not, but just the complete implosion of the bullpen there was pretty tough to watch, and it brought forward my favorite thing about these implosions is it creates the only 2 days out of the year where college baseball is becoming a hot button
Boom.
button item
there
on Twitter. It takes some time. And so, had a lot of is Waz the guy to lead this program? It's just nice that you get a little bit of sprinkling of everything here in the 2 weeks of the college baseball microwave.
Getting back to what you were talking about with the runs early, I have found, and I don't know if there's an equivalent in other sports, maybe a little bit. I think maybe in football, you start doing the football math, right? You're like, all right, if they can just hold on, if they can burn 2 minutes here, and you start doing the football math. Boy, when you as a fan start counting outs, it's bad. And I've found myself, it's all right, it's the 6th inning. They got a 3-run lead here still. As they got about 12 more outs, got 12 more outs, and then all of a sudden it's you can't throw a strike. And then finally, I will say, I know the Grand Slam put the nail in the coffin on their season. Tyson, I will say, looked like it was a strike. I'll take that.
Yeah, it really kind of just felt like that. It was you had a good basketball run where you made your first 5 threes, and you're oh, I got a nice lead here. Things are going well, and then it just. The other team starts eating into it, and you just at some point you kind of know that the straw is going to break, and yeah, that was tough. I thought that was a ball, but at the same time, they didn't have a whole lot of proof of concept with the umpire there in that inning, but that whole at bat, I'm watching that guy being he's got to just be sitting on a fastball down the middle. This guy can't throw strikes. I mean, if there's ever going to be a green light for a pitch like that, it's going to be now. And boy, did that guy connect on it.
Let me ask you this: as a baseball fan, where are you? Because Brenden asked me this, and I had to begrudgingly admit I kind of like it. Where are you on the ball 5, ball 6, ball 7 chant from the crowd? Is that in poor taste? Is that like
No,
kind of like it?
No, none. No, I love it, and I think that's kind of part of the fun of being a team that hosts the Super Regional. You win all those games. You're dominant throughout the season. Like I like that you get into the college postseason and you get a little bit of a taste for how it's just like a little bit different. So yeah, ball 5, ball 6, ball 7. Like I think that's completely fair game.
So Oregon bullpen kind of implosion, had a multi-run lead in both games, couldn't hold on. Opposite happened for the Beavs. Now they got a decent pitching performance in game 2, not so much in game 1. But Tyson, they packed probably a lot to go to this series and to try to win this thing in Lexington. I don't know if there was a connection. They did not bring their bats. Bats did not show up, and just could not get anything going offensively.
I watched game 1 of that series from Jerry's Tavern. And they had Stanley Cup on. They were about to turn the Timbers on. They had a couple other sports on, and there was a group of about 15 Beavers fans, that had been there all afternoon. They had the Super Regionals on. They had it on about 3 of the there was probably 10 TVs, and they had the Super Regional on about 4 of them. And in that 7th inning, the one that just took forever, it was the saddest thing watching the bar owner come over and be like, "Hey guys, like, do you mind if we just switch this to the one smaller TV so we can put the Timbers game on the rest of them?" And just like the complete accepted like dejection of the Oregon State fans being like, "You know what? You don't even have to turn it on that one, buddy. Like, you can turn them all off." That was my Oregon State Beavers Super Regional experience.
I have heard tale of this Jerry's Tavern. You just gave him a free shout out. Let's give him some. I heard the pizza is something to be experienced. Where are you at on this Jerry's Tavern? Pizza? Or is it not there yet?
Yeah, so the pizza's not there yet. From my understanding, they were a smaller operation at first that was maybe a cart that did pizza, and then he's in the last couple months opened up a bar, which is kind of down by the Adidas employee store. And from my understanding, the pizza is the next thing to come. Okay. But they have pretty good regular bar fare outside of that. And I mean, you have to respect the place that comes by and does tableside Malort shots. So there's potential there.
All right. So when they do get the pizza going, we maybe shall make our next I-5 corridor Rip City Mornings collab field trip, and maybe because I took you to my pizza spot in Southeast, and good times were had. So maybe I then venture up north to the great North Portland.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. It feels a little soon. I mean, the last one was just like 2 months ago, Justin. I mean, we're still within the window.
I got you.
Don't feel pressure.
All right, let me throw this out real quick on the baseball thing, because I find it fascinating. Like you mentioned, there are probably some hot take on Twitter, and it's got to be frustrating if you are an Oregon baseball fan, right? Getting so close, and it's kind of one of the things that you wanted. Look, we all know why Oregon has a baseball program. Oregon State won back-to-back national championships, and Oregon said, well, they don't get to have fun if we can't have fun. So they tried to buy themselves into the good graces of college baseball. It's taken a while, so getting over that hump and going to Omaha hasn't quite happened. But it's weird in college baseball, Tyson, because in basketball, you make the Sweet 16, that's a success. You're good. Yeah, it'd be nice to make the Final Four, but any year you make the Sweet 16, unless you are, say, the number 1 overall seed or whatever, you make the Sweet 16, you hang a banner, you chalk it up. Baseball, apparently, it's a major disappointment if you don't make the Elite 8.
How much do you think that's just because, in the college baseball postseason tournament, they call the Final 8 the College World? It's like they have a new name for it. It's kind of like a different tournament.
Yeah, it's 95% of it.
Because it's as it stands right now, it's kind of confusing for somebody in the know to convey to somebody out of the know, like, how successful the season was. Like, oh, they made the regional? No, they actually got to the Super Regional. Oh, what's the Super Regional? Well, it's actually a smaller regional than the regional, but then it sets you up to go to the College World Series in Omaha, which then has more teams than the super regional. I think I think you should get to a point where you should probably celebrate super regional appearances, because they are, as you said, that's making the Sweet 16. That's a pretty successful run, especially to have two teams in the Northwest with Oregon and Oregon State both make it. I think Oregon is just very, very, very attached to the label of College World Series, especially because they haven't been there and they've been very close to making it, and Oregon State has made it. So I think that's where that will continue to be disappointing. What I'm really interested in is, now that these two teams kind of switch conferences and aren't so close together, what sort of like identity does Oregon baseball kind of go out and create on its own? Because like, as you said, the reason why it's here is because of Oregon State. Well, if you're, not related to Oregon State anymore, like what is Oregon baseball? I think this will be kind of an interesting kind of storyline here in the next few years of Big Ten play.
I mentioned it. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us on 620 Rip City Radio. I mentioned it right at the opening as that final out was being made in Lexington, which, again, I know hindsight, and boy, I do not envy third base coaches, but I mean, if you can't hit and you get a screamer down the line, maybe send the guy. I don't know. Probably don't want last out of the season being made at home plate either. But either way, Beavs had 2 on, 2 out in the 9th, trying to get to Omaha to extend not only their season but the life, Tyson, of the Pac-12 conference, and it was not to be. And as the final out was made in Lexington, the logo, the patches. It's all done. We're done now. It still feels a little bit weird. I mean, I know that we've known this for a year, close to a year, but to see that final out made and to kind of sit in it on Sunday, Tyson, be like, yeah, it's really over. It's done. It's not coming back anymore. Those Pac-12 logos are now collector's items.
Yeah, I just put all of my Pac-12 Media Day toiletry kit up on eBay. So if anybody wants to come find that, slightly used, but
is that a real thing? Did they give you guys toiletry kits?
Dude, they've probably given us like 20 toiletry kits over the years. I have a few reporters' notebooks. I have some pens. I have a couple thumb drives with the Pac-12 logo on them. You can. I'm opening up a store.
Brenden, you got a quarter. Brendan's got a quarter zip. Did you ever get a toiletry kit?
No toiletry kit, but I've got thumb drives, as Tyson mentioned, and a lot of stationery.
You got a. Where'd you get the quarter zip? I never got a quarter zip.
I think I got it from working a Pac-12 event, actually, rather than Media Day. But yeah. But it lives.
This is why the conference didn't survive. You gotta give us media members like the really drippy stuff.
Yeah, if you could have gotten a good old fashioned dad quarter zip, boy, we'd be talking about Pac-12 football preview. Instead,
I mean, I'd probably be wearing it walking the dog today. It's slightly overcast. The sun's not expected to hit until later this afternoon. I know you guys aren't aware of what afternoons are, but it's that time afternoon when the sun gets a little bit stronger. Like it'd be perfect quarter zip day.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio, as you have been doing on the corridor. Falling for the Big Ten, and Oregon fans getting used to this new world of hearty Midwestern life, of bratwurst and beers and very cold weather and running the football in clouds of dust and all of those things. And Michigan State is this week's falling for the Big Ten preview on the corridor, which is interesting because we mentioned what is the rivalry between Oregon and Oregon State going to look like from a baseball perspective. I'm curious what it's going to look like from a football perspective. And, I mean, of all the coaches in the Big Ten that Oregon should have some familiarity with, Michigan State will be coming to Autzen Stadium with a guy that's not too popular along the I-5 corridor.
Yeah, the Michigan State-Oregon rivalry has some potential without that. I mean, they played two of the better games of the last decade in 2014 and 2015 with both teams in the top 10 and plenty on the line. But Michigan State hasn't been that good lately, since the Red Box Bowl, really. which we don't need to we don't need to go back into that game. But I think Michigan State was a program that had the potential to kind of be like a solid B minus rival with Oregon. But then you throw Jonathan Smith into the mix, and that spices things up a bit because one, Jonathan Smith was relatively successful in the Ducks considering the resources that he had at Oregon State. So you give him a Big Ten budget, you have to assume that he's going to have some success out there in East Lansing. But then you just kind of throw on the fact that if I'm running Autzen Stadium, I maybe section off a whole free section for Oregon State fans to come in. Let's try to build a little bit of the camaraderie back up. Let's get Corvallis and Eugene bonding against the one thing that can bring them together, and that's the hatred of Jonathan Smith. I really feel like this is a good marketing opportunity to bring this state back together.
I mean, it is kind of fascinating because you think about it's a new conference, and you put it in your post on the corridor, right? You've got that Red Box Bowl. Maybe one of my worst tweets of all time. I was watching the Red Box Bowl, Tyson, and I said, I think at this point you just got to throw a trick play out there. And then they ran the worst fake punt in history. And I was like, boy, freezing cold takes got me down cold because it was the worst tweet I've ever had. It was also kind of the Marcus Mariota kickoff to his Heisman campaign in that 2014 game against Michigan State. The what if of 2015 with Vernon Adams, and you could even go all the way back. Tyson, you weren't there. Hottest game I can ever remember. It was scorching hot in 1998 as Michigan State, then led by this guy named Nick Saban. He's pretty good. But they would go down on the Autzen turf that very hot September day with Akili Smith taking the reins of the Oregon offense. So it is a multi-decade relationship that Oregon's got with Michigan State.
Yeah, no, that our mutual friend had just texted me about that same game too. So I obviously needed to date back a little bit further than my decade covering this
hot,
rivalry.
Tyson.
But
it was so hot. I mean, it probably was 90, but it felt like it was 104.
You know what's funny is I don't think that I've had a too hot in Autzen Stadium game because they don't AC the press box up there, do they? I guess Everything's just been decent enough for every game that I've covered. But I have heard since I have been covering games at Providence Park that during the summer it's going to get super hot up there. But I guess I've just been lucky with most of my press boxes on the hot scale. I've been in plenty cold press boxes throughout my career.
That is true. I have also been in my fair share of cold. Yeah, that was also I was not a media member. I think I just turned 19 years of age, up to some shenanigans, I'm sure, pregame.
Perfect.
And sitting in the it
was a different time.
It was a different time. It was pre 9/11. The world was different back then, Tyson. And I was sitting in what would have been the east end zone. And, got absolutely blistered in more ways than one, if you know what I'm saying.
How was the sun, though?
It was the sun. You got to hydrate. That's what the kids say. Other than the falling for the Big Ten, what else we got coming down the road, pun intended, on the corridor?
I see here. I'm posting a podcast today with Shane Hoffman where we talk a little bit about what happened this weekend with Sophia Smith's red card, which was kind of a bizarre ending to a game. We have some state of the programs coming up. We're gonna dive. We already did Oregon basketball, so we're gonna dive into Oregon State men's and women's basketball, and hopefully we got a little big football preview coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So it should be a pretty good week on the corridor.
Fantastic stuff. If you are not subscribed, you need to be subscribed to the I-5 Corridor. I-5corridor.com is where you can go. You can follow Tyson on social media, X or Twitter, however you like to call it, at Tyson Alger. And you, of course, hear him each and every Wednesday on this particular program. Hey, Tyson, thanks so much, bud. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, absolutely, man. Take care.
There you go. Tyson Alger, boys and girls. Yeah, Brenden, it was – you ever been to because those September games, you ever been to a scorcher at Reeser? Because when you were before you were a media member and like me sitting under the very nice covered shadow, but those old Parker Stadium bleachers, they would get hot because they were metal.
Yeah, like I remember, like as a fan or as a media member.
Probably more as a fan, I would wonder.
The most scorcher I can remember a couple years back when they played Boise, it was like 90 at kickoff. It was like an evening, like a 4:00 game. I'll get back to you. Maybe the mailbag.
All right, there we go. Well, you know what? Here's the good news. Mailbag is coming up next right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Do want to remind you that Rip City Radio is keeping Ticket Tuesday's winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Had a winner yesterday. Why? Because yesterday was Tuesday, and it's Ticket Tuesday, so you have to wait till next week. But you should be listening to Rip City Drive each and every day, but listen each and every Tuesday afternoon for more chances to win. Get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. My mid-morning might be shot, Brenden, because I just found on YouTube, which YouTube is the best. It is the best. I got the entire Oregon-Michigan State 1998 game. I might watch the entire thing. It's without commercials, 2 hours, 43 minutes. Al Michaels on the call. Brent Musburger. Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts on the call. I might just stay in here. I might be here when Chad and Dwight show up. And like, what are you doing? Watching Oregon, Michigan State from 1998.
It's pretty epic. I would.
It's so awesome.
Would have no frame of reference for that game. But yeah, to your
not
point,
surprising.
To your
you're a
point,
wee lad.
To your point, Justin. They're the best. They're the best. Okay. Bigger mailbag before the mailbag. Bigger acquisition when Google bought YouTube or when Facebook bought Insta.
Ooh. I mean, Instagram's probably the bigger deal, but for me, I watch YouTube every day. There's not a day goes by. I don't know. Like, my house might not be standing if not for YouTube, because I've learned, like, people are like, oh, you're so handy. I wasn't. I learned it off of YouTube.
They were on it, man. They bought YouTube in 2006 for $1.5 billion, and then Facebook bought Instagram for only $1 billion in 2012.
I was still YouTube. I think for me,
I think so
because
too.
I use it so much.
I do. I use YouTube.
I
more.
could go a week and not look at Instagram, and I will be just
Me too.
fine. My life will be fine. I don't know.
Some people would be the opposite.
I've learned how to cook off of YouTube. I've learned how to fix things around my house. I've learned how to use power tools. And I get to watch football games from 1998 with no commercials.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to the mailbag. Also, Ruben Drones was a dog.
Yeah.
Dog.
So, Justin, it took me a minute. I'm going to cheat a little bit, but your question was, do you remember a hot Beaver game?
Yeah.
You didn't ask me if it was in Corvallis or not.
Okay.
So, upon further review, hottest Beaver game, easily when I went to Hawaii in 2019. Shout out that
How
game.
How hot was that?
It was probably 85 at kickoff.
But pretty humid.
Humid
and
at
that
night.
Hawaiian sun is it's supersized.
It was September, and I learned when I got a little red and burned on my arms, like, you're being close to the equator. It hit. But, that comes to mind as, like, the hottest game.
So, like 98 Michigan State, Oregon, for me, is the hottest game that I can remember. Because you know this, like those early September games, 12:30 kickoff, or I think
it's either raining or hot.
But in September, though, it's very rarely do you get those rainy games. It's a summer month. Like, it's the end of our summer. But the other one, because it was such a terrible game, Oregon beat Michigan in 2003. 2003, Oregon beat Michigan. Michigan was the number 5 team in the country in 2003. Oregon beat them. Lloyd Carr, the then coach at Michigan, said, that's the loudest stadium I've ever been in. The next week, in an early October game, Oregon was facing off against Washington State. And the big screen put up the Lloyd, right at kickoff, the Lloyd Carr quote that said, that's the loudest stadium I've ever been. It's the loudest Autzen Stadium has ever been, for my money. Nobody remembers it. You want to know why? Because Washington State would kick the dog out of Oregon over the next 4 quarters and ruin what was supposed to be a very special season. But that day was an unexpectedly very hot October day. You know how you get those hot October days? That one was sweating and watching Washington State just absolutely kick the dog out of Oregon. But that was the loudest Austin's ever been, for my money. Loudest Austin's ever been.
So now, for the sake of the mailbag, we have to say, of all elements, the worst weather I have 2. Okay, I'll say this. The worst weather you've sat in as a fan and the worst weather you've witnessed. So my worst weather witness, Washington this last year. Justin will attribute it to, there was a hilarious video that was made because the dude couldn't find the bathroom. I had never seen it.
I think he could find it. I don't think he much cared, though.
I had never seen rain come down more at Reser
more than
Stadium.
just rain was coming down, apparently.
Now, I was dry, so I'm not going to
That's
complain. For me, my money, Justin, and I'm curious to know if you were at this game or remember it. 2003, Oregon State versus Oregon. Steven Jackson just kept slipping on that Autzen Stadium turf. It was pouring down rain in Autzen that day. I remember sitting in the stands with my dad, and that was a very wet one.
2 years earlier in 2001 was the worst as a fan that I sat in as a fan.
I forgot about fog.
Well, no, fog was 2 years later in 2005. 2 years earlier in 2001, it was hail. It was rain.
I never had hail.
It was wind. It was wind. Worst weather I ever sat in as a fan was the 95 season, 96 New Year's Day Cotton Bowl. Worst. Absolute worst. Terrible
You've
day.
told me that. Yeah,
terrible day in Dallas. At Autzen, worst I ever sat in as a fan. As a fan was 2001 Civil War. It was just they delayed it so that they could play it the same day as the SEC championship. Or no, maybe it's something because 9/11. Anyways, they were playing. It was December. It was the week after Thanksgiving. It was cold, rainy, windy, hail, sideways wind. It was the worst. Now, as a media member, there was a game against Cal, Oregon Cal, 2011, 2012, that literally I would venture to say worse rain than Oregon State Washington this year.
That would be tough, but
and
I believe it.
You've been in the Autzen press box, right? To get rain into that press box,
got to blow sideways, like Forrest Gump would say, come in everywhere.
I had, because I was doing TV and radio at the time, I had like a blue button-up dress shirt. It was soaked. It's absolutely soaked.
Yeah, no, that's legit. That's legit.
Oregon Cal, what was it, 2011? I think 2012. But it was the worst.
Yes, I think I remember that game now. That it kind of sounds familiar. As far as this is just a fun topic now. As far as natural weather phenomena that I don't think I'll ever see again, it's watching.
That was 2013. 2013.
Okay.
Got it.
Yep. That does link up because Oregon State played earlier that day. They said the atmospheric river is hitting this evening, and I remember watching Oregon just play through it on TV. But for my money, Justin,
Cal was terrible. Oregon won 55-16, and
it was
one of those games where honestly, I don't think anybody was in the stands who wasn't under a cover.
That's fair.
At the end of the game.
That's fair.
Usually, even then, somebody's going to stay there.
Yeah.
Even on 100-0 game, somebody's going to.
Yeah.
There was nobody.
Yeah.
There was nobody in the stands.
But no, I still think the crazy, that's all the weather, but just craziest thing that I don't think you could ever duplicate, because there'll be games where it's raining, games where it's cold, hot. Watching Reggie Bush come out of the fog.
Yeah.
That's going to stand up as, the best player I've ever seen in college, my eyes, coming out of the fog. That was
Fog
nuts.
Bowl 05 Civil War was the worst fog I've ever seen.
Ever. Even in all your travels of the Valley.
Oh, I mean, at a football game.
Okay,
at a football game.
I was going to say, yeah.
Dude, I drove through some fog and scared the bejesus out of me. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor. Thanks to super producer Brenden. And thanks to all of you. We got PGA Dave tomorrow. Talk a little U.S. Open, which gets underway at Pinehurst #2. We'll talk to you then at 620 Rip City Radio.